Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to this session on serverless face authentication. I'm Srishit Repakula, the head of engineering at Confirm. I'm also a serverless consultant, co-organizer of one of the largest serverless meetup groups in India and actually across the globe, the Serverless Architecture Meetup Group in Bangalore. And I'm also the organizer of the AWS user group Tirupati, which we recently joined. And I'm also a mentor at Girls Script Bangalore. I pretty much work on AWS and serverless, and I have been working on serverless for the past close to 3 years. And fortunately, have never got a chance to look at the EC2 console and not spun a VM until today. And I just hope it doesn't happen anytime soon as well. And I've been pretty much on the serverless stack, and this series has been about serverless and various basics and some applications that we have built. And today's topic is the serverless face authentication app, where it's really fancy, right? But trust me, but you might have been thinking like, okay, this looks a little difficult. Authentication face, will I really be able to do? Well, that's where serverless comes into picture, right? Serverless has always been an aid to the developers, taking away a lot of pain from us. And apart from that, there are AWS has always been, an aid to the developers and bringing out a lot of services. There are close to 200 services as of today, and we will be consuming a few of them today to see and how we can leverage and build this application. So on the Outlook, this is how it is going to look like. We will be capturing an image. There is some sort of an application. Again, before I get into the explanation of this architecture, so what exactly do you mean by face authentication? It's very generic. So let's give a real world example, right? Now, let's say for example, you are you have in your office you have an attendance system where you have a punching machine or something like that, where you have a thumb impression or the swipe of your an ID card and stuff like that. We are tech companies, we should be able to do better than that. Those are age old technologies, right? So that is where you can probably try out it in your office as well. You can build a simple application, and of course, you need some hardware. Today, we are just going to talk about the software part of it, wherein we will have this application where it captures the live image of whoever is coming in. Someone can take a picture of it. They have a camera, and that camera is going to compare faces with a database of faces that we already have. And then, it's if we find someone similar, or we have found that face as a part of our database, then of course the particular person can enter in, and then you have your login times and logout times and stuff like that. So the list of services that we are going to consume today are, of course, you might be wondering, we are going to do compare faces, search faces, and of course we will be indexing faces and stuff like that. Those all seem to be a little more complicated, right? Do I need to know ML? Do I need to know AI? Do I need to know what is deep learning? Trust me, apart from the abbreviations of all these three terminologies, I have no clue what they are. And today I'm going to help you build an application that is not going to consume any of these things, but still help us build an application that we have just talked about. Isn't that amazing? So this is where we are going to leverage AWS's Amazon Recognition Service, which is going to help us, detect a face, index that face in our collection. I'll come to what exactly I'm talking about, and then search our faces that we have already stored to make sure that this person is there or this person is not there and stuff like that. So this is just a very basic high level application sort of a thing. Of course, we can have a bunch of other things that can be built as well. Now, so this is on the high level architecture. So what we are going to build is the application that is mentioned here. And for this application, as I mentioned, we will be using recognition. And of course, this is a serverless session, so we cannot have a session without a Lambda function, right? So there is going to be a Lambda function as well. And apart from that, we're going to touch upon another new service, that is step functions. Now, this session is going to be more towards step functions and understanding what are the various capabilities that it brings to the table when we are building distributed applications, and how we leverage recognition as a part of this application to recognize, detect images, faces in an image that is uploaded. Now, this is how it is going to be. This is the step function. Okay, I'll let you. I'll come to what exactly is a step function and all those things. But on a high level, a step function is nothing but a flowchart which has a bunch of tasks that it needs to do. So this is what is called as a state machine. Now, we define this in the AWS console, or you can use the CloudFormation templates or serverless framework, SAM, all sorts of things. And it gives a lot of things out of the box for us, which we will be discussing in just a minute. On a high level, this is what we're going to build today. When an image is uploaded, we will check if there is any face in that image, and then we will see if there is any duplicate face that is already present in our database. And if so, we are going to throw an error saying that, this face is already present. And then if there's no face already present, we will do and we'll index that particular face and then create a small thumbnail. So one example flow that I had talked about, but which is the Office thing where you log in and log out. But what exactly we are going to build today is something like you have an application wherein you want to for every sign up, you want to make sure your signups are unique. So what we do is we request the users to upload an image where they will be able to capture the image from their phone, and we will make sure that the particular user has not already signed up as a part of our application. So the various use cases could be like, for example, I don't know how many of you guys have used. There's an application called Bounce, which helps you rent bikes on demand basis. So what happens there is when you're signing up, they request your image so that they can cross verify it with your driving license to make sure that the person is safe, and then all sorts of things. That is one sort of an application that we can have. The other one is to make sure that nobody is misusing my sign up promotions. See, most of the times what happens is on sign up we give some free credits. There will be some free rides or free things that is available on my application. To make sure that the end users do not abuse my system by constantly keep signing up with different email IDs or phone numbers. Email IDs we can get n number, right? We know we have temporary email addresses that can be generated and we can consume it. So just another way to authenticate users into our application, and that is the base application we are going to build today. And we are going to leverage step functions and talk about what are the things that it brings to the picture for us when we are building distributed applications, and in our case, serverless applications. Now, before I proceed further, let me just give you a brief understanding of the couple of services, the main services. Of course, Lambda functions we have already touched upon and discussed quite a lot in this series. But these are the other couple of services that we are going to discuss, which is the Amazon Rekognition, the first of the service. And with Amazon Rekognition, we get all these things that can be possible without any knowledge of machine learning or AI for us. All we have to do is provide Amazon Rekognition the image, and perform the requested operation. Like you want to find the labels, or you want to do a facial face detection and analysis. Now let me start with one after another each feature. So the first one is scene and label detection. So what happens here is I can, in a given image, I can try and identify the various objects that are present in the scene. Like for example, in this, I can say a cyclist, and of course there'll also be a percentage with which is the confidence percentage. And then there's a bicycle, there's a person, there's a path. As you can see, there are a bunch of percentages as well, and the objects are being identified. Then we have face detection and analysis. So this is what we will be going to consume today, where we will detect faces in in an image. And also when we are detecting faces, recognition also gives us the sentiment of that particular user, saying, is he happy? Is he smiling? Is he sad? Is she, really happy? Wearing some sunglasses, and some kind of attributes are possible, which we will see what are the various things that is possible. And then we have face search and verification, which is again something that we will be consuming today, where we will search for a given face that I have detected. I will search if that face is already present in my database and take further action on top of it. And then there's unsafe image detection, which basically, it tries to detect if there's some adult content in your images that you probably have to take an action on. Let's say, for example, you have a website where people can upload their images, and that image gets publicly visible. You don't have any control of what the user is uploading, right? So in such cases, this comes in really handy to make sure that there is no sensitive information, adult content that is getting uploaded into your website. Then we have celebrity detection as well. Any celebrities can be detected, and what is the use case for this? Let's say, for example, you do a marketing campaigns and stuff like that. You want to go through Twitter and see how many times this particular celebrity is being tweeted about for images, and then you can define your marketing strategies and how to improve it and stuff like that is possible. And of course, the last but not the least, we have text and image, which is basically identify different textual content inside an image. Again, has a lot of use cases, right? For example, your application intakes a bill, and you convert that bill into something that's human readable for tracking, sort of a thing, and all these things. We can have numerous applications, right, when it comes to image recognition, and these are not just for images. They can be done for videos as well. We can try to detect things that is happening in a video, like labels, facial analysis, and in video recognition we can also do what is the kind of action that particular person is trying to do. Let's say, for example, he's delivering a package and stuff like that. That is also possible with recognition. And not last but not the least, and the latest entrant into the recognition pool is the PPE detection, personal protective equipment. During the COVID times, you want to make sure that whoever is entering your premises, or in your factory, people are working, you want to make sure that they are wearing the PPE equipment to make sure that the virus is not spreading further. So recognition also brings that service for us, and we can leverage to provide an image, and we will be able to do it. So this is all theory. So I'll quickly show you guys what exactly that is. As you can see here, if you go to the AWS console, which I've already logged in, and go to the Amazon recognition, and you can simply, these are the various things that we just discussed about. I'll quickly show you one after another. Object and scene detection. So you upload some images. These are the sample images that is already available. And as you can see, I have not done anything. We have not done anything. Amazon AWS is helping us identify the various objects in this particular picture. As you can see, it has identified a bunch of cars, and there's a skateboard, there's a person, and there's a wheel. Isn't that amazing? And there's a bunch of cars. Now we can try it out for a different image as well. So here it's trying to detect the scene as well as the object. And you can see the results on the right hand side. It's a city which is almost 99.1% sure about the same. Sorry about that. And I can see much more here. It gives us whatever it's able to detect. All those things are shown here. And if you want to see the request, so essentially a request is nothing but the image, and that image will be stored in S3. We just provide the bucket name in which the image is stored and the name of the file. And the response is going to be, again, a bunch of things. So it's a city, what is its confidence, and a bunch of things. So it has the confidence and things like that. These are the response that we get from Amazon recognition. So this is with the object and scene detection, image moderation. So this is the one that I was talking about, the adult content, right? So if you want to view the content, we can make sure that there is nothing wrong here. So there's no moderation labels detected. But if you click on this image, and then you can see that, suggestive 81% female swimwear or underwear and stuff like that. Revealing clothes is 62%. So based on this, you can decide, whether you want to make sure that the user is able to upload that image into your website or not. Then facial analysis. This is something that we are going to consume today, wherein you upload an image and it gives its prediction. It looks like a face, appears to be a female, age range, it's smiling, as I said. It also gives this sentiment, and of course gives you the coordinates of that detection, so that we will be able to plot it like what it has done here. And apart from that, it also tells us that the person is wearing glasses, wearing sunglasses, eyes are open, and stuff like that. So does not have a mustache and things like that. And it can also detect multiple faces in an image. It's not like it's just going to be one, and it can give us that individual images as well. And of course, you can see the age range is also being displayed. So various numerous and sort of applications can be built with this one. It's really interesting and very, very easy, which is something that you're going to see today. Celebrity detection, of course, we know who this person is. It's Jeff Bezos, and then this is Andy Jassy. And so you can try out multiple, upload multiple images. Rajinikanth, Shah Rukh Khan, you can upload, and you will be able to, see the things, celebrities. Now, this is face comparison. This is something that again we are going to consume today, where we are going to compare it with the faces that is already present. As you can see, this is the image, and this is the comparison, and you can see the similarity is 99.9%. The similarity is working even when there are multiple people in the image. Now, if I choose here, it is still able to give me that, and it is finding that the particular image here is corresponding to this one. So that is what we can get out of Amazon recognition, the face comparison. The text and image, again, a very handy thing. As you can see, it's Monday but keep smiling, and all these things are given. And number plates, you want to detect what is that number plate, and the same is detected here as well. Now, the PP detection, this is the new service that was launched. And you can see that whether a person is wearing the equipment or not is being detected here. And for multiple people as well, it works. And as you can see here, it is detecting that it's a head cover, there's a face cover, and this is a person. So these are the, again, the same thing, similar things can be done with video analysis as well. But we will be restricted for the session for the image detection and searching of the images and indexing the images. 3 operations is what we are going to consume today. Now let me get back to my presentation. Now, the next thing that we are going to consume today, the next service is the AWS Step Functions. AWS Step Functions actually gives us the capability to orchestrate the Lambda functions. Now, as we have already discussed in the previous sessions, that Lambda functions have to be stateless. That means the state cannot be maintained. When it comes to serverless applications, it very easily blasts into numerous Lambda functions, because it's not microservices anymore, right? It's nano services. Because one of the best practices for building serverless applications is single responsibility principle, which means that one Lambda function should do exactly one and only that thing. If we stick to that principle, then we have numerous features that is possible in our application, and the number of Lambda functions is just going to blast. And if we have so many Lambda functions, it's going to be really tricky to orchestrate those Lambda functions and make sure that they work as in a workflow. And that is where the step functions come into picture and ease out the pain. So step functions help us orchestrate Lambda functions, as I showed you before. It is nothing but a flow chart where you define that these are the tasks, and after Lambda function 1, do Lambda function 2. After 2, do 3 and 4 in parallel, and stuff like that. A few advantages that step functions gives us is orchestration, like I already discussed, parallel processing, and with the step functions you get parallel processing out of the box. Let's say, for example, you fan out multiple Lambda functions based on the response of its previous Lambda function and stuff like that. So parallel processing is possible, and parallel processing is something that we are going to utilize today, where we will be indexing the image and at the same time, creating a thumbnail for that image as well. And then the last but not the least is we have the retry, time wait, conditional execution, and stuff like this out of the box. Now, to give you guys a simple example, I don't want to complete my operation until and unless the thumbnail is created. So in situations like that, creating a thumbnail itself is its own Lambda function, right? In a workflow, I have to wait until the thumbnail creation Lambda function returns a response to me. So what I can do is I can either write my main Lambda function in such a way that I call this thumbnail Lambda function, wait until its response, because I can't do anything else, and then I return the response. What is the problem with that? The issue is you are writing a wait logic. I mean, of course, you can trigger a Lambda function based off a request response, and it will wait. But that Lambda function is waiting for no reason, right? Because it's dependent on the response of another Lambda function. So instead, what we can do is we can take that wait logic out of the Lambda function so that we are not built for that wait time, apart, and put that wait logic into our step function. And you can say, wait for 5 seconds and then go proceed further with your tasks. Like that, we also have retry mechanism. For whatever reason, my Lambda function has failed, I don't have to write the retry logic myself, but rather write it in the step function, therefore taking the retry logic out from your application layer and putting it into the step functions. And with these things coming out of the box and the configuration being JSON, which is something that we'll be seeing today. With step functions, what exactly? We are just going to write a simple JSON which says, after this, do this, after this, do this. That's it, nothing much. So, and then we'll have conditional execution as well. If at all the response of lambda of a particular lambda is this, then execute this, otherwise then execute this. All sorts of things. We don't have to write it in the application layer, but rather leverage step functions and get it done for us. Apart from giving us the capability of maintaining a state and creating a workflow or a user flow, it step functions give these things out of the box for us. Now, these are a few points that we have already discussed. It's an orchestration service that helps in creating serverless workflows by chaining, branching multiple Lambda functions, helping us create a workflow. And then it gives us a stateful, it helps us build a stateful service because the context object is shareable across the workflow. And we can have a parallel processing and easily integrates with not just Lambda functions, quite a few other AWS services as well. And a lot of retry time wait conditional execution is provided out of the box, and we don't have to build it in the application layer. And the best is it's just going to be a JSON as a configuration. We don't have to do anything else. Now, enough of the theory part. Let's just get into the actual coding section. So if you can just scan this QR code or head over to this particular GitHub repository of mine, you'll land here. Which has the serverless, the various Lambda function code, step function code, everything is already written here, and we will be leveraging the same. And for building this application of the Lambda functions, we will also need a couple of S3 buckets. So we will be using CloudFormation templates, which we are going to, CloudFormation is nothing but infrastructure as code, which helps us, deploy resources into the AWS cloud. So we are going to leverage CloudFormation to create the Lambda functions for us and the necessary S3 buckets as well. So what we are going to do is, there's some description. So what we are going to do is we are going to first of all create a recognition collection. So a collection is nothing but, it sort of holds the images and things like that. It's sort of a container of images sort for us. So what you would do is, before you proceed further, we are going to use, of course, the AWS CLI. Make sure that you have configured the AWS CLI on your local machine. And we were just going to, you can just copy paste this and go to your terminal. And, okay, look at that. Yes. So you can simply paste the same. And I'm not going to execute it because I've already created it. But what we can do is, let's say, for example, I can say demo. Oh, sorry about the typo. Yeah, now it has successfully created the collection in my AWS account in this particular region. Make sure that the region that you're specifying here supports AWS recognition. And we have created the collection, and make sure that you store this collection because we're going to use it in our Lambda functions. And apart from that, as I've mentioned, we are going to use CloudFormation templates for us to upload for us to create the resources of S3 bucket and Lambda functions. So let's quickly take a look at that. So if you go to the project structure, if you have cloned the repository, you will find something called a setup.yaml file. It's a YAML configuration. And what we are going to do here is, on a very high level, explain what exactly is there in this particular CloudFormation template. So what we are going to do is, we are going to create a bunch of Lambda functions. What are the various Lambda functions? We already saw that here in our flowchart. So we are going to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Lambda functions. As I said, every Lambda function, the best practice is to make sure that we have one and only single purpose responsibility to make sure that it does one and only one thing. And what we are doing is we are going to create a function called as face detection. So this function is going to help us detect a face that is uploaded in the image. We will see the code part of it. And this is written in Python 3.7. The memory size. So what is the memory that we are going to configure our Lambda function for? What is the timeout and the policies? So basically, what is the IAM policy that my Lambda function face detection is going to have. So what I'm doing is it needs to have access to my S3 bucket, because this is the bucket that is going to store my images. Okay, I think, okay, I skipped my bucket here. Book my cab S3 bucket. So this is the bucket that is going to have the images that is uploaded by the end user, and I will pick these images from here and then run the face detection and bunch of things that we have discussed. And there's another bucket which is going to store the thumbnails, because in the application I want to store the thumbnail of the particular user. So now there are two buckets, and this is the IAM policy configuration, where I'm going to configure the get object permission for my this particular S3 bucket. If you guys remember, in the previous session, we talked about having the fine-grained security permissions to our Lambda function. So this is the best practice. I'm making sure that this particular Lambda function called face detection only has the capability to get an object from this particular S3 bucket. Not all operations, so that S3 support is not provided. Neither all the S3 buckets that is provided available in my account is provided the access for. Then the other policy that I have to attach is nothing but the recognition, where I'm going to perform the detect faces. Again, it's very fine grained and to the point where what I'm going to consume. Make sure whenever you're building your serverless applications, the Lambda functions have very strict fine grained access control to the various other AWS services that we are consuming. Now the code URI. So the code URI is basically the place where my Lambda function code is. You can see I have another folder called as Lambda functions, and here I have a function called as face detection. So which is the function here. Before I get into the code part of it, let me quickly explain the other parts of my CloudFormation template. Like I've mentioned, we are going to create a bunch of other Lambda functions. There's a failure notification, face search Lambda function. Again, the policies are going to be the same. Read bucket is S3, and here I'm going to use the search faces by image function or operation of the recognition, and my code is going to be here. I have a bunch of environment variables saying that the image is going to be present in this bucket, so that I'm not hard coding anything as such. Then I have index face. That's another Lambda function. Same thing here. Again, fine-grained access of only index faces as the recognition service that we are going to provide. And then we have another Lambda function, which is the thumbnail function, which basically creates a thumbnail. Now, here is something that I want you guys to observe, that is the layers. So what exactly is a layer? So layers is another feature of AWS Lambda, which helps you have code that can be shared across different Lambda functions. For example, you have a utility library that you have built, which is almost going to be consumed by every Lambda function that is available there in your application. Then instead of having it deployed every single time when all the code is getting deployed, you can rather have it as a layer and attach that to the Lambda function, so that you don't have to deploy it every single time. The utils module is one of the use cases, because utils is something that is used by every single Lambda function that is out there, right? The other use case a lot of times people use is basically the modules. Now you have so many third-party modules, and let's say, for example, in Python we have the request module, which sort of is used by quite a lot of Lambda functions, because you want to make third-party API calls and stuff like that. Now, instead of deploying that request module as a part of your code every single deployment, instead what can be done? We can add it as a layer, and then every Lambda function, whichever is going to utilize that request module, can simply attach this layer. So when you're attaching a layer, you can simply specify the ARN of the layer, and then that particular module is available for your application to consume. So the advantage is on every deployment that doesn't get deployed, that is one of the advantages. The other one is you can share it across different Lambda functions. Therefore, if your utils is something that is developed independently, then it can have its own deployments, and then it can be consumed by the application level Lambda functions. And in this particular scenario, what I have done is I have gone ahead and consumed a public layer. So again, layers can be public as well. So this is a layer that is not from my account, but rather from someone else's account, which they have open source, and it has the Python 3.7's pillow library, which we are going to consume to create a thumbnail. So instead of me having deploy that pillow doing pip install and installing it into a particular directory, zipping it, uploading it, all those things is we don't have to worry about. And rather I rely on a layer, and in this particular case I'm relying on a layer that is from someone else, not even in my account, which is possible. As you can see here, this particular one has write permission to the thumbnail bucket and also has the read permission to the images bucket. So that's pretty much it. And we also are creating an IAM role for the state machine. That is a step function state machine that we are going to create, and that is the policy. So the state machine should have the permission to trigger the Lambda function. And here, of course, I've given star. But again, this is just to bring it out that star is not a good practice. We should rather identify the various Lambda functions that is going to be configured as a part of the state machine and add the same. And these are the bunch of outputs that I want to have an output as a part of my CloudFormation template. So this is what the CloudFormation template has. Of course, this does not have the configuration of the step function itself, because I wanted to show you guys how we can create it from the AWS console. Now, if I go back to the to my repository, the second step is to deploy the CloudFormation template. So what we'll have to do is we will be using the AWS S3 API create bucket S3 command. Okay, let me open my README file here. README. Yes, it is available here. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a bucket called face authentication in the particular region in which I have created my recognition collection. And then I am just going to say that it's a location constraint is this one, and I'm going to create a bucket. Now, what is the use of this bucket? So the use of this bucket is to store all the Lambda function code, so that we can retrieve the code from into the Lambda console. So basically, we will be utilizing the AWS CloudFormation package command. What it will do is it is going to package our Lambda functions with the dependencies, if there are any, zip it up and upload it into this particular bucket called as face authentication. Therefore, from this particular bucket, the Lambda function is going to get its code from. So that is why we are going to create this Lambda function out before we actually create the CloudFormation template itself. And then this is what we are going to do. And then we have the CloudFormation package command, which is going to basically package the Lambda functions that we have as a part of our application, that is the part of this YAML file, setup.yaml file. And then and then it is going to upload into this particular bucket, this particular region. And what is the template? The template is the setup.yaml file, and the output template file is this one. So this is the output template file, is the one that we are going to utilize to create the CloudFormation stack. So what we deploy the CloudFormation stack rather. So the third command is basically to deploy the CloudFormation template. So there's a template file which was generated in the previous screen. If you guys want, I can quickly walk you through that template file. So this is the template file, which essentially has the code URI. Apart from this, there is no change. So essentially, if you guys remember, in the setup.yaml file, I had my code URI as a path to my local folder structure, whereas in the setup.yaml file, it just gets converted into S3 location, so that whenever the Lambda function gets created as a part of the CloudFormation deployment, it knows where to get the code from. So that is the only difference. That's why we use the package command. So the package command uploads the content into the S3 bucket and replaces the code URI here. Next, we have, let me go to the README file, and you can just deploy this CloudFormation template, and it will deploy the CloudFormation stack. So what I'm doing is, in the interest of time for this session, I have already deployed the particular CloudFormation template, because it generally takes a couple of minutes. So as you can see here, I have already deployed the face authentication app, and there are a bunch of resources that is created as a part of this. So this has gone ahead and created a couple of a couple of S3 buckets and 5 Lambda functions and an IAM role for my step function. So that is what it has done. Now, before any other delay, let's get started with, let's go ahead and go to the Lambda functions. And we can see the Lambda functions should have been created here. Yes, as you can see here, of course, it has a few Lambda functions from the previous session as well. Let me just, yes, we have a few Lambda functions here. And then we can have index face detection, failure notification, face search, and a bunch of other things. So what we are going to do is we are going to go to the step functions console. Let me go to the step functions console. And what I'm going to do is I am going to I am actually going to try and deploy again, because I have made some changes. So let me quickly package it again and deploy it again, just to be, make sure that all my changes have been deployed. Okay. Access denied when perform. Oh, okay, okay. I think I probably have a different CLI configuration, so let me not just deploy it right now. So I have already gone ahead and created a state machine, but let me try it again. Let me create it. As you can see here, there are a bunch of options here. We can author with code snippets, run a sample project, or start with a template. Now, there are two types of step functions that is possible: the standard step function, standard workflow, or an express workflow. Now, what is the difference actually? You can see here the difference. So the maximum duration is 1 year, whereas the maximum duration is 5 minutes. That means the step function can actually run for almost a year, whereas here it can run for a maximum of 5 minutes. The supported execution start rate is over 2,000 per second, whereas here it's almost a lakh per second. And the number of state transitions rates here is 4,000, but here it's almost unlimited. Now, essentially, you can always go ahead and see the difference between both of them. But how is it going to help us, decide? Standard is basically, it has, if you want to do some very long running tasks and stuff like that, then you can go ahead with standard, and it has a lot more features and stuff like that. And whereas in express, it is very quick, something you want to do quick and get it done. The main difference between both of them is basically in standard. Standard works in such a way that it is as if as it is at most one. That means every task that is defined here will be executed at most once, until and unless, of course, there's a retry logic that is specified. Whereas in the express workflow, it is at least once. That means these tasks may be executed more than once. So if you have a case where you have a non-idempotent application, then you will have to go to standard, because it guarantees that the particular task will only be executed once. Whereas in the express workflow, it's not the case, and it is a possibility that it is going to execute multiple times. So in case, for example, you have idempotent scenarios, like for example, you are performing a put operation in DynamoDB, like we discussed in the last session. We do not have any create item, right? A put item will update the item if it is already there, or it creates something new. So doing it multiple times will not really cause any problem. So I'm just going to this is the express workflow. Now, yeah, sorry, this is the Lambda function. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the standard workflow, and this is the generic code snippet. You can have a bunch of others also. You can start with a basic one, or what you can do is you can always delete. Okay, let me show you guys what exactly this is. Right now, it has a start, as you can see here. There's a comment, of course, it's a comment. Starts at, where does my execution start with? It's going to start with hello. Hello is the logical name of the state of the task. So it has a type pass because there's no Lambda function that is configured. The result is hello, and the next after hello, what needs to call? We need to call the world, and inside world also it is going to be pass and nothing else. So as you can see here, it's a pretty simple, step function. Now, let's say, for example, excuse me, which we have observed here, right? We can have multiple complex workflows that can be defined as a part of our application. So what I'm going to do is, if you go to the project repository, set the step function number 3 because it has everything in it, all the Lambda functions and everything. You can replace it with this, and you can see here it has the face detection, check face duplicate, and everything. So let us quickly go through what exactly it is. Now, what I have done is I have replaced, you have to, of course, replace it with your ARN. And what we are going to do is basically, it's a face processing workflow. It starts with the face detection state, and it is of type task, and it is of a resource as a Lambda function, the ARN of the Lambda function, the result path. Now, the response of this Lambda function is what is configured here in case you want to, pass this result to the next Lambda function and stuff like that. So once this is done, I will be using the check face duplicate as the next task, which is this one. But before I get there, this is what I was talking, the catch. If at all there is some kind of an error, instead of catching at the application, see, the code errors, of course, we can catch. But what if, there's something that the Lambda function itself fails? Let's say, for example, the Lambda function timed out. Let me give you a simple scenario. You have a Lambda function that talks to a third-party API. Let's say, for example, a Google Maps API, which it's almost always reliable. The Google Maps API is hardly anytime going down, but you never know, right? So what can happen is, let's say you have given a timeout of 2 seconds, and for whatever reason, you have 99% of the times you know that Google Maps API is going to return the response instantaneously almost, and you complete whatever business logic you have within 2 seconds. Now, for whatever reason, let's say, for example, it takes 3 seconds, or Google Maps API is down for a split second, right? So instead of the entire application failing over, or instead of you having the retry logic inside your application, or the catch logic inside your application, you can leverage step functions in the same. And here what I'm doing is I'm catching a type of error called as a photo do not meet requirements error. And if that is the case, I'm passing the error info into this particular task, which is called as the photo does not meet requirement task, which is what this task is. If we go here, it will be photo. Yeah, this is the task. So it is another Lambda function, which probably, triggers an email to the dev team that's saying that, something is wrong and stuff like that. So that is the use of this one. If at all there is no error, it will get inside the check face duplicate. So there's the check face duplicate, which is again another Lambda function. Again, here also I'm having a catch block. And the next one, the parallel processing that we discussed about. In the parallel process, I have a branch. Inside the branch, basically, I have two branches. One is to create the index for my face, and the other one is to create a thumbnail. Both of them have Lambda functions configured, and end is true. That means for this branch, if you have further processing that needs to be done for this particular flow, for this particular branch, you can add that as well. Otherwise, if that's the end, you can call it as true. And result is basically the parallel result. So whatever is sent here, that is the result, and end is true. So this is basically the step function configuration that we have, and that is what is defined here. So let me format, it's formatted, and let me just go ahead and click on next. So then we have the state machine. So for example, we can say face authentication app. Okay, I'll just give serverless face authentication app. And logging, I'm just going to leave it off. X-ray, again, X-ray is a monitoring service from AWS. Again, probably for another, another session. So I've successfully able to create a step function that is a serverless face authentication app, which is going to have. Now, what I need to do for my application to start working, I actually have to upload images to S3, right? So I'm just going to upload images to S3. So I'll go to the S3 service, and here I am going to, of course, a bunch of buckets. So if you guys remember, we had created a bucket called face authentication. So which is going to store, let us go to the CloudFormation template that we had, setup.yaml. And what is the name of this one? Book my cab S3 bucket. So book my cab S3 bucket. Of course, it appends with the CloudFormation name and stuff like that. So there's no images here. I can click on upload. And what I'm going to do is I am going to add files. So what I'm going to do is, as a part of this repository, I've added a few sample images as itself. I mean, I've provided. So what I'm going to do is open in the Finder. Sorry about that. So we have the face authentication app, wherein these are the sample images. I get into the sample images. I have a bunch of sample images. I'm a big fan of Emma Watson, Scarlett Johansson, so I've just added those images here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag and drop that here. So let me quickly drag and drop. Let's say I'm going to try Scarlett. I'm going to drop here. So it's scarlett.jpg. Upload. Yes, I have successfully uploaded it. Now the name is Scarlett. So let me head over to the step functions. Now let me get into the step function. And here I'm going to click on start execution. So the input what we are going to have is basically the, let me show you the input. The sample input is also added into the README file. So essentially this is the input that we are going to have. So let me copy paste it and explain you what exactly this is. So name of the S3 file that we have uploaded to our S3 bucket, that is a scarlett.jpg. And in the collection ID, as you guys remember, we have created a collection ID. So that is the Book My Cab collection. And then we have the user ID, which is a user ID. Why are we having this user ID? I'll get to that in a bit. So let me start my execution. So while this execution is happening, you can see here at the bottom, there are a bunch of logs that gets generated. I mean, the flow and stuff like that. So here it is checking for duplicate. Now it has found a duplicate because, of course, it's my bad. I have been testing out that Scarlett and I have added Scarlett into my collection. Okay, my bad. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and add another image. So let me go to the Finder. Let me go and add. Okay, let me add Jessica. Oh, sorry, not here. Let me go to S3. Let me, that's it. This is the status. I'll go ahead and upload another image and let me just add Jessica here. It's jessica.jpg. I'll upload. So it's uploading. I was successfully able to upload Jessica. And let me go to my step functions execution. I'll create a new execution and it is Jessica. Is the spelling correct? Whatever I added here, JSICA, SICA. Yeah, this is correct. It's JPG, and this is a collection ID, and I'm going to have the user ID as well. Now let me start the execution. So the execution has started. So the very first thing is it's trying to go and detect the face. So while it's executing, let me quickly show you guys the very basic code that I've written. So we have the face detection. So what is happening here? As a part of my application, I have a few constraints as well, saying that what I'm doing is I'm detecting a face for an image that is uploaded in this particular S3 bucket. The bucket name is coming from the environment variable, which we saw. The file name is here, which is coming from the input. And then it is trying to detect faces. I have a bunch of exception handling here. Now, I just want to make sure that the user is uploading an image, right? I don't want him to upload a PDF because there's no point of doing an image analysis on top of a PDF or a GIF or anything, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm handling that invalid image exception, and the next one is image too large exception. If the image is too large, then I want to make sure that the user is not uploading an image that is too large. And if it's something else, then I'm logging the same. And then for all of them, I'm throwing I'm raising an error called as photo does not meet the requirements, because either it is not of the image format that I want, or it's too large, or for something else. Now, apart from that, once that is completed, if there's no exception, I get the response into the phase details. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure that there is one and only one face in that particular image. I don't want to have a group photo, right? Instead, as we discussed in an application, we want to make sure we are trying to authenticate a user. We don't want to have multiple people in the image. So making sure that the number of people, the number of faces in this particular image that is uploaded is not greater than one. And then if that's the case, we are raising an error. And then we are making sure that, for better indexing and searching, making sure that eyes are visible. And therefore, I want to make sure that nobody is wearing their sunglasses and stuff like that. So what I'm doing is I'm going to say, if at all someone is wearing a sunglass, the user is wearing a sunglass, then I'll throw an error. So that's pretty much with the face detection. And as you can see here, our step function has executed successfully. So that means the face got detected successfully because I only had one face in it. And then we have the check face for duplicate. So what it is doing, we actually saw the failure of this one, right? I had already uploaded Scarlet into my collection, and therefore it was a duplicate. So it is throwing an error. So what I can do is in my application, if from the step function I'm getting this as the error response, then I can say that the user is already signed up to my application and I cannot allow him or her again into the application. Now the next one, in parallel, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an index and a thumbnail. So again, the same thing. It is pretty straightforward. Okay, the second step is check for duplicate. So that is what this face search is going to do. What we are going to do is in the image bucket, we are checking for the given input file name. Are there any face that is already available as a part of our recognition? If the answer is true, that means if it's greater than one, the number of matched faces, then I'm returning a response saying a duplicate face is found. And that is where I'm raising a face already exists error. And that's throwing an error, and that is caught by photo does not meet requirement. If this also passes, then in parallel, I am just executing the index phase. Again, for index phase is where I am using again recognition. So for the given image that is available in this image bucket name, I'm trying to index and store it into this particular collection. Pretty straightforward, nothing much. And then the create thumbnail is the one where I am consuming the the layer that we talked about, the pill library. We are consuming the image library. And here what we are doing is basic, creation of a thumbnail, very straightforward, using the pill library. We're creating a thumbnail and uploading the same into the thumbnail bucket. So the whole idea of using this thumbnail and this one is to help you guys understand the fact that there is a possibility of doing multiple parallel processing, and that's what it can be done. If you can scroll down, it will show you the list of execution event history. So the Lambda function is scheduled, it is started, it is succeeded, it is going to the next task and stuff like that. If you can see, it will show you the inputs that is being passed across different states as well. So that is sort of maintained. We're sort of maintaining a state in this particular workflow. Now let me show you another one, which is new execution. Okay, I think we do not have enough time. So what you guys can do is, as a part of this S3 bucket, I have created a bunch of sample images. You can go ahead and let's say, for example, multiple faces. Let's try it out. Actually, I think we still have a few more minutes. Let me go to S3 bucket, exit, upload an image. Of course, I'm doing all of this manual. You can always create an application for this where someone is uploading images, and then from there you pick it up and things like that. So I'm just going to drop this multifaces.jpg. If you guys want to see what exactly is that multifaces, then this is the multifaces. It's the Avengers Endgame poster. I mean, I'm a big fan of Marvel. If you have heard my previous sessions, you would have already got it by now. Then let's get into this multifaces. It's the multifaces.jpg. Let me go to the step function, create a new execution, multi underscore faces.jpg, and I'm going to give the user ID also the same. Let me start execution. Now it's trying to detect faces in the app, in my particular image, and that is what is happening right now. Wait a few more seconds, and the face detection has failed because we have a constraint saying that there should not be more than one face, right? So if you get inside this, or rather here, if you go to the output, you can see that multiple faces detected in the image uploaded. So this is the error that we are raising, and that is being caught because I have a catch block for this Lambda function and this Lambda function, and therefore it is being caught here, and my entire workflow is stopped, and therefore the adding the face to index and thumbnail is not executed as a part of my workflow. So this is a basic understanding of how step functions work, the various capabilities it gives us, and how we can use another service called recognition and build something really cool. As you guys have observed, we have created some sort of a basic authentication app with almost zero knowledge of AI ML, not almost, with zero knowledge of AI ML, leveraging various services. And of course, this can scale because we are building Lambda functions, right? Lambda functions mean scale. We don't have to worry about the scaling factor. So that brings an end to my session, and thank you so much for everybody who have attended this session. If you guys have anything to discuss serverless or AWS services, you can always reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm pretty much active, and if you guys really like this session, it would be great if you can just follow me on Twitter. It's just a way to for me to know that you acknowledge the same. Or you can go to the GitHub repository, just give it a star, follow me on GitHub for some really interesting content on serverless and building some really cool applications. So do follow me on LinkedIn, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn. We can chat about serverless and AWS, and this is one way you can tell me your feedback and if my sessions have been helpful. Thank you so much for attending this session, and I hope it was helpful.